Serbian Football Show. This is your host, Miloš speaking. Welcome to another week in the crazy world of Serbian football. Happy everybody is listening to us today, whether it be on YouTube at our YouTube channel, the Serbian Football Show, or on Spotify or on SoundCloud at the Serbian Football Show as well. Thanks for joining us again. And this week we have a couple other people on the show. Our man Luka from DC. Luka, how are you feeling?
Hey man, not great. Not related to Serbian soccer, related to the U.S. election, obviously, but I'll get through it.
Hey, you know what, man? I'm just glad that Scotland can't beat us on a mail-in ballot. So,
Likewise.
So that's one positive. And Valley, how are you doing in Australia?
You know what? I love going on straight after Lorca because I absolutely know at the bottom of my heart I'm never, ever going to be as cool as him. I swear to God, if I have a lifetime supply of Brute, I would never be as cool as Lorca. Like, hey, man, you know what I mean? Like, it's just fantastic. You know, I would replay the opening credits about 50 times during the week just to hear him.
Good man, Billy.
And also we have our man Alexa from the Serbian capital of Belgrade. How are you doing, Alexa, tonight?
Early on in the week I was doing terrible, and then I found out that Dusan Tadic can not only beat the coronavirus, he can also beat anybody in his way, scoring a goal and assisting, so I'm doing pretty well.
That's right, thank God. Start of the week we thought we might be without him for Scotland, and then he's negative, and then he scores yesterday and has an assist in the Champions League, so looks like he'll be good to go for Scotland next week, which is great news. Also, this week we had the squad released. So our Tipak coach named the squad for Scotland, as well as the two Nations League games against Russia and Hungary, which are, way less of way back in the back of our minds right now because we're all thinking about the playoff final. Not really surprises in the squad, but some changes in the squad. We saw Adam Najic finally dropped, as well as Nikola Maksimovic. And we saw Lazar Langelovic from Olympiacos added and Uroš Spajic from Feyenoord. Not surprising, based on how those two guys have played for the national team in recent times. Luka, what are your thoughts on the squad in general and some of the changes?
Look, man, I'm happy. I think it was time for Najic to get off and make room for somebody else, mainly because, in the last couple of games he just did not show anything. And this is coming from a very big Gajic fan. I've been a fan his whole career, and I thought he definitely put in his service for the national team. Could have been a little bit more consistent, but overall I thought he was pretty good and did his job. But I think it is time for him to go and make room for new people. Overall, man, we still have this, the same core people that were there that got us through Norway, so I'm extremely happy with the squad.
That's right. Yeah. Adam's had close to 50 games, I think, for the national team. He's been there for a long time. Hasn't really produced much in recent times, and also he's not playing for his club, so it's hard to argue for his inclusion when you have guys like Langelovic who's playing in the Champions League, and then even guys like Ivan Ilic who's coming up and starting every game in Serie A right now. So hard to argue that he deserves a chance. Veli, what were your thoughts on the squad?
As you guys could tell from my comments in a previous pod, I was absolutely devastated when Adam Najic got dropped. But listen, if we follow just simple logic, our game against Norway, we all know now we're gearing up a game against Scotland. It was going to be really hard to make any wholesale changes. Wholesale changes, obviously are not needed. Adam Najic's played 50 games. It's not like someone gets their first cap for a national team anyway and we go, all right, I'm going to give that guy 50 caps and see if they come good. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've just never seen Najic turn a game, change a game, be in Serbia's top 2 or 3 players. So, like, I'm not too dissatisfied that he has been dropped. Nikola Maksimovic, on the other hand, he's just made mistakes, the poor guy. Do you know what I mean? And
right.
Then I think that's just been a consequence of a couple lapses in concentration, a couple horrible mistakes that has cost us. So it's not too much of a surprise that he got dropped. then on the other hand, between now and the Scotland game, I just hope everyone stays safe and healthy. I think we all saw the media reports that Filip Juricic was also infected with the coronavirus. Correct me if I'm wrong. And hopefully he will be okay for the Scotland game as well, because I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, I just want to correct you, Veli. Ice did make a difference in one game, Albania away.
Yeah, sensational. When it meant absolutely nothing to us.
Hey, it was Albania.
I know that, but, I just, on the big stage, do you know what I mean? The Albanian game was gone, national pride was only at stake, and, absolutely, I see your point, brother, but he's had enough goes. 50 caps, good God, do you know what I mean? We know better players who had less than that.
Exactly, and Alex, what were your thoughts on the squad in general?
Well, I would disagree on the Gajic point in terms of him not having impact. I think that he's just somebody who, unfortunately, is a victim of playing a style of football that is long gone. He's a creative playmaker who doesn't really have any sort of defensive duties. But I think that some of the performances he had, like the games against Costa Rica and Portugal, for example, when he was played out of position, he was tremendous, at least defensively, and really ran well, and I think actually contributed. I think he was our best player in the Euro 2016 qualifiers, which were abysmal in a train wreck, but he had some good performances. He had a game against Armenia, which was pretty good. He was good against Portugal. So I think that, he's somebody who, it's a shame that he's not playing for his club, because I think Turkish football would suit him well. But I think that when you see the performances of guys like Juricic and Sasha Lukic, who's gotten into great form, I think that it was completely obvious that he was going to get dropped. I've never rated Maksimovic. I think from his first game, the mistake he made against Bordeaux all those years ago, I don't want to bring back traumatic memories, but ever since then I've considered him to be kind of like a big tree. I don't know how he's made the career that he's made, and every game he's played in the national team, he's been a disaster. He got a red card against Ireland. He single-handedly lost a game to Morocco. I mean, he was responsible for 3 of the 4 conceded goals versus Portugal. So, I mean, good riddance. As far as the rest of the squad goes, I'm glad that Katai and Stieler got a call-up. I think that Katai, as much as I hate to admit it, has deserved it because he's been in great form. And I think Sasha Stieler has deserved one for a while. It's just that he's playing in a position that is filled with so many talented players. He's never really going to get a look in. And in regards to the squad itself, all the guys are there, that they should be there. If you want to really nitpick, I'm kind of disappointed that Nastasic isn't there. I think he could have been good as a backup option, but I am glad that Uroš Pajic got a call-up, and I think that Živko Živković from PAOK has been playing tremendously well, and I think he deserved a call-up over Rocco, but those guys aren't going to get minutes, so it's not that relevant. And one last thing that I would point out is that I think that people were very, very harsh and very unfair on Tabakovic in this time around, because I think they said, wow, he's calling up 32 players. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's calling up too many guys. We've got 3 games against very tough physical opposition, and we saw in the last cycle that the loss or the draw to Turkey was a result of fatigue, the goals that we conceded. I think if he would have called up 40 players, which I wish he would have done, people would have gone out and said, oh, he's combining his team and he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's just giving, agents and managers a chance to run a squad. And if he would have kept it kind of tight-knit and called 23 or 24 players, then they would have said, well, wait a minute, you remember the last cycle, we got tired and we conceded goals. So it's a lose-lose situation for him. I think that he picked exactly the right amount of players to call, and I'm happy. There's no issues. There's no the COVID things, which I hope clear up. My only hope is that Kostic and Mihailo Ristic can get fit. Kostic injured his knee, and hopefully he can come back, and Ristic hasn't played for Montpellier in 2 or 3 games or so. So I'm very, very worried about that, because like I said in the previous podcast, I think that could be a major advantage for us on that side, but I think everything else should be good, and I think everything should be fine, and I'm happy with the squad.
Yeah, some concerns, of course. Juricic has tested positive for COVID-19. Still a chance that he could make it, but it's possible that he's not there. And Mihailo Ristic as well for Montpellier. Not sure what happened there. Hopefully he's all right as well. But yeah, let's talk about the form of our players, though. I mean, most of our players are in pretty amazing form right now. Sasha Lukic, another goal today. He's got 3 goals in 3 games in Serie A. Sergei, of course, in great form.
Tadic scored on the weekend.
Yeah, don't even have to mention Tadic. He's scoring every week or every game or assisting every game. So very exciting that all of our guys are. Even Mitrovic got 2 assists on the weekend as well.
That was really
One of them was
that was really interesting. The BBC football website actually said he was the player of the match, although he didn't score. He was the best player on the park. So I think that's really encouraging news for us also.
Guida had a really good game today for Sevilla in the Champions League. So things are looking good. It's just some tough decisions for Tabakovic to make right now with so many players in good form, particularly in midfield. Like how do you not start Sasha Lukic? But he's done well against Turkey, and now he's doing really well for his club. So it's kind of tough call for him there.
I think the only thing that he can really do is that he could use as an excuse, which I would like to see if Juricic isn't fit. I think Lukic, as I've tweeted before, I think he's wasted as a defensive midfielder, and his competition shouldn't be Gude and Maksimovic. I think if he was to play further forward, he would do really well in the spot that Juricic was in, because it would give us the option that we can bring in Sergej off the bench, which I think would be a killer call, because imagine bringing him on in the 65th minute with his size and with his skill. I mean, he would just completely frustrate and destroy the Scottish defense. So I would hope to see him maybe push further forward, because he's shown even with Partizan and Levante that he's a guy who can actually play very well, and that because of his engine and his running ability, he's been pushed to play more defensively when he doesn't really have the physical tools to do it. But if you give him the ball and you give him time, he can be really effective. So I hope that he gets more chances going forward, as opposed to being pushed back, where the competition is very tough, because you have not just Maksimovic and Gude, you also have Grujic who might get minutes. You've got other guys there, so it's a bit tough for him to get hits in those positions. Hopefully, he gets pushed forward.
No doubt, Alexa. But you wouldn't start him as a forward against Scotland, would you?
No, I wouldn't start him as a forward, but I mean, obviously, I would try to look for other options, but I would play him, kind of in behind. You play Tadic as kind of a second striker, and you push Lukic maybe to be kind of the third midfielder with more freedom. I wouldn't push him as far forward as Juricic, because Juricic and Tadic really play almost the second strikers to Mitrovic in this formation. It's a 3-4-2-1. So you kind of put him somewhere in between, but you definitely give him freedom to get forward, because I think he's shown that he has the shooting and passing ability, and he also has the speed. I think he showed some really good flashes of pace and strength, which he's used to, because he used to play in a position rather where it's constant chaos and it's winning tackles, and I think that I obviously hope Juricic can start, because I think he's a better player, and I think that he's more fit for what we're trying to do. But I would definitely try and bring Sergej in off the bench. I mean, I wouldn't be against Sergej starting either way, but I think if you bring him off the bench, he's that X factor that you don't really prepare for. Whereas if you know that he's going to start, you can kind of prepare completely for him, and you kind of take away the element of surprise. But like you guys said, Tabakovic has some very tough choices, but I have a feeling that he's going to pick rationally and pick the team well.
Yeah, I think, if we want to come out and attack Scotland and try to finish him off to start, probably should start with Lukic, right, instead of Gulen in that spot. He can play more forward in the midfield. He can also move around. Very mobile player, very versatile player. So we saw the chaos he created against Turkey in the first 60 minutes. So quite some thinking for Tabakovic to do. I'm not sure myself what I would go with. I'll probably play it a bit safe and stick with Guda in that spot. He's done nothing to lose the spot, and might open us up too much on the counter if we go too attacking against Scotland. We wouldn't want to do that, because they've shown that they can actually score off the counter. It's one of their main strengths. So tough call, but I think I would just stand. He could play in Juricic's spot, depending on if he's ready or not. I mean, I'd rather see Sasha Lukic there than Radonic for sure. We've seen what he can do, and it's two totally different players. One's a much higher level than the other one, in my opinion. So hopefully Tabakovic makes the right call. Myself, I'm not sure what the right call is, but we'll see on the day.
Well, Milos, what is the latest with Juricic? Is he supposed to be ready for the game, or do we not know yet?
We don't know yet. I think as long as he tests negative by the 9th, he should be fine to travel. So he just has to have, I think, one negative test a couple days before, and he'll be okay to travel and make it. But then, it's a question of form as well. He hasn't played all week. He's probably training and doing stuff in his house. But that's another thing. He was on fire form-wise before he got COVID, and now, of course, at the worst time, he has it. And, I'm sure he'll be ready, because he hasn't been out that long, but it's still a question mark.
Right.
Velia, what are your thoughts on Tabakovic's decisions to be made?
Yeah, listen, I'm hoping Filip Juricic set up some cones in the corridor of his house and all that, and dribbling through those to keep his fitness up. But I'm a huge Filip Juricic fan. I probably made my points in a previous pod. He's the type of person who links really well with the players around him because he has that ability to decide what he's going to do with the ball before he gets it. I'm also a Nemanja fan because I just think his work rate is fantastic, and I would love to see him start. I truly think that the starting 11 will only change if something is forced upon Tubakovic rather than anything else. I like the idea of Sergej being on the bench and bringing him on as an impact. I think they did that really, really well against Norway. So I can really only see any changes forced upon Tumbakovic rather than the wish for him to change that starting 11.
I would also say one thing. I think that form that Gata has been, and I actually kind of thought that maybe if he's not too tired from the European games as well, because he played in that position the other day against Hoffenheim and against Liberec, he's playing kind of behind the striker. He could actually fit in very well because, you don't need tremendous pace for that, and I think that he's at least in great form and shown his technical ability to shine. Obviously, I would rather go with someone else in that position, but I think that maybe you do something that tries to surprise Scotland, especially if you're unsure about Juricic, and I certainly wouldn't force him. I think that if he's not completely fit, and if he doesn't have at least one or two tests, I mean, if he doesn't have one, he can't play, but if he doesn't have at least two, I would just be cautious about those kind of things because I know that COVID doesn't have that big of an impact on athletes, but I think that it can be a problem to, kind of chuck him on immediately after he's just had the thing. So I would just be very cautious. Fortunately, we have enough squad depth where I think that whoever we plug in those positions can do well. Even maybe we can go with Vlahovic or Georgi Despotovic. Georgi Despotovic has been in great form in Russia, and Vlahovic has been in good form.
Right.
So I think that he has the creativity, and I would maybe even go with Mirgacinovic, because he's someone who naturally is a more forward player in the national team. He's been kind of delegated to play right wing back, but Tabakovic has a load of options there, and I think that he has to analyze that very carefully because starting with Sergej or going with someone else, it's a big question for him, but I think that I have enough confidence in him to see that he's at least going to think it through. Whether he gets it right or not is a question, but I think that, if anything, that he's shown that the scouting has been well done, and I think that he's going to pick the right person to start in that position.
Hey, this is one of the deepest squads we've ever had, so thank God for that.
Absolutely.
Especially during a time like this with so much uncertainty with COVID-19, injuries, all these games bunched up, sometimes three games a week for some of our players, right? So thank God we have the depth that we have right now, quite a strong generation coming through. And then even look at the guys who aren't called up. we can make a starting 11 out of Serbian players who aren't called up, which will look really strong on paper. Matic, Ivanovic, Nastasic, Žiko Žikovic, Uroš Račić, the list goes on, right? Uroš Dužević was killing it now for Sporting Gijon. I mean, we just have so much depth in most positions, which is great to see, and it's definitely going to be needed in the next year because I don't think COVID-19 is going anywhere, and we're going to have to be dealing with, these fears and our players having COVID for, even if we qualify, we're going to have to be dealing with it for the next couple of months before the tournament as well, which is unfortunate, but that's our current reality, and until we get some kind of antidote or some kind of vaccine, then things will go back to normal. But right now, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, and I'm sure that Euro 2021 is going to be, dealing with the same things that all the competitions are dealing with right now, currently. Talking about Europe, let's go on to Europe then. Zvezda with one of their best wins in Europe in some time, just with some just trashing Liberec, some Slav crime against our Czech brethren there. But hey, what can you do? Big win, 5-1. I don't think anybody expected that. I don't think even the most diehard Zvezda fan expected to win 5-1 in Europe in a group stage game against a pretty decent team. Luka, what did you think of the game, and how are you feeling about the chances going forward?
Yeah, man, I thought the game was extremely fun to watch. I haven't had that much fun watching Zvezda in a good while, man. Perhaps the last game that I had that much fun was when we thrashed Roma 3-1 at the Maracana. But I like our chances going forward, man, against Ghent. I think like we definitely showed up for that game against Liberec, and everybody played well, especially Katai, Ivanic, of course, Falcinelli once again was a stud, and of course let's not even forget about Ben who scored 2 goals, right? But yeah, that was once again a very fun game to watch. The intensity was there all game except for maybe a 10-minute lapse when they scored at the end of the first half, which seems to be a common thread with Serbian teams. But if they bring that same intensity, hell, even if they bring a fraction of that intensity to the next game, I think they have a very solid chance of getting that second place and going to the knockout round. I think I love what Stankovic is doing with this team. You can tell that the players are passionate. They want to play for the dress. They want to play for Stankovic too. And yeah, man, I'm just very, very excited for this game. I already took out, freed my time in the afternoon tomorrow to watch it, so I'll definitely be watching, man. I can't wait.
That's right. What about you, Vali? What were your thoughts on the game?
I'd love to, first of all, put in my sincere thanks to UEFA, who have put it at 6:30 a.m. Adelaide time, so I really appreciate their compassion in doing that for me. Listen, I think we were really good going forward. So that transition when we won the ball back, Zvezda were really, really, really good going forward. Admittedly, against an opposition who I thought that would be better. To be honest with you, they weren't much copped. You know what I mean? And on top of that, Zvezda, I must agree with Luka. Zvezda played with a fantastic intensity. The only troublesome signs I saw was probably a 5 to 10 minute period before halftime when Zvezda conceded, and there was a 5 to 10 minute period between the 50th minute and the 60th minute where, again, we looked rather nonchalant, and we went, okay, it was like going back into second gear and staying there, but we were dynamic. Zvezda were good going forward, it was... when you get the score newsletter for the underrates and they go all played well, I think that happened for Zvezda. I think they all did play well. Do you know what I mean? And I've got to agree with you, Luka. Falcinelli is a star, and I just love saying his second name. And last but not least, if I can put in a plug for Zvezda's new shirts for the European campaign, they look fantastic.
Oh, for sure. Beautiful, beautiful new jerseys. One of the best ones that they've had in a long while, for sure. Falcinelli, hell of a signing. Ben, looking at his best. Wondering why he didn't play more in important games in previous campaigns, but it is what it is. He's in good form now, and looks like they have a good chance tomorrow and going forward. The main goal is to get out of the groups, and they're still alive and well in that. Alex, Partizan fan in the room. What were your thoughts on Zvezda against Liberec?
Well, I thought it was a terrific performance. I actually didn't watch it live. I had certain obligations, so I actually caught it the day after, and it was really impressive. I think that the biggest thing that impressed me was the play from the wingbacks, which we haven't seen from Zvezda in like 2 years almost. Rodic looked as the way he looked against Cologne in the first Europa League and the way that Stojkovic looked. Gajic scoring, I think, was great for him. I think that Zvezda desperately need that right back, and I think the national team needs a right back, and it would be good if somebody could get in that form. I think that Ben continues to prove that I think he is one of the 3 or 4 best form players to have played in Serbia in the last 15 years, not just because of the amounts of goals that he scored, but because of his professionalism, because of his attitude. It's been fantastic. It was a new formation. They came out with the old 4-3-3. I think that they clearly played better without Konga, which was big, and I think that the whole team was really good. I think even that spell of 10-15 minutes of nonchalance, Milan Borjan once again pulled off one of his typical saves to kind of stop that. And I think that the Europa League is the level that I think is ultimately better, because even if you make the Champions League for the money and the pride, the performances that they were showing were clearly lacking. I think they've kind of released themselves from that fear that they had, because it's not the same level. They can actually beat teams now, and I think that they could actually win more coefficient points anyways. So I think it's a really big aspect for them. It's unfortunate that Rodic is not going to play against Ghent. But then again, Gent's coming to that game with an assistant manager and with like 5 guys missing out. So it's going to be a big do-or-die game. But I thought the Liberec performance was nice. It was good revenge for 2006, which was one of the more painful defeats in recent Zvezda history, even though I must admit I thought Liberec were fairly poor. I don't think that they were terrible, as some people have said. It's not easy to score 5 goals against anyone, but I expected more defensive solidity from them, and they kind of looked a complete calamity. But Zvezda played well. They took their chances, and this game against Ghent's going to be huge for them. I think if they win it, I think that the second place is almost guaranteed, and it will be big. I think everything really worked well, and hopefully some of the younger players that come through, like Nikolic and Erakovic, can come out and in this next game show a lot of confidence. And ultimately, the thing that was really missing from Hoffenheim that was here was the performance of Mirko Ivanic, who's been a man reborn under Stan Stankovic, just like Sedu Basuma was with Milosevic. So I think that that's a big advantage. It's a shame that the only thing that's very unfortunate is that there are 3 okay to really good strikers sitting on the bench that are not being used at all, whether it's Boachi, Popkov, or Damane. I wish Popkov would get more minutes, but that's my personal opinion. And to finish off on the Ben reason, I think they wanted to sell him last year, and something broke down his contract. They didn't register him in time for the Champions League, which is one of the all-time dumb moves in club history, and there have been a lot, because if he would have been there last year, they probably would have been in Europa, and it would have been a different scenario. So he's kept his head down. He's been really professional. He's scored a lot of important goals against Salzburg and Napoli and Trnava, and his attitude's been terrific. So I think that he's been by far their best form player in a while, alongside Marin and a few others. And it was great against Liberec. It's always nice to score 5, and I think they're going to have a legitimate chance to beat Ghent, but they're going to have to be careful, and they're going to have to respect the opponent that's they're about. They are coming with some injuries, but I think if they take the game seriously and if they come out with a strong approach early on, they should get a big win and get out of the group, which would be huge.
Yeah, big. There are no easy games in Europe, especially not in the group stage of the Europa League. But big chance for Zvezda tomorrow, as you mentioned. Ghent is missing some key players. Zvezda's feeling, very confident. They're on a high after the last game, and they also had, an easy game in the Superliga on the weekend as well. So things are looking good on that front. Hopefully, they're able to capitalize on Ghent's absences and get into a firm position for a second spot in the group, and they'll be able to advance. And more importantly, get us some coefficient points, because this is a really good chance right now with Zvezda's group for us to move up in the coefficient rankings, and it'll be amazing for all of our clubs starting next season if Zvezda can get a couple more wins. I think if Zvezda gets 3 more wins, we should have enough points to move up a couple spots, and that might mean an easier route to Europe, as well as an extra spot for one of our other clubs in the qualifying. So big competition for Zvezda and for Serbian football in general. It's quite a huge week of things that are going on. Luka, how are you feeling ahead of tomorrow's game? Are you ready for another big win?
I am fully prepared for another big win, man. The progression of the intensity of the matches. Like if you start with like Hoffenheim, I thought that I think we were all in agreement here. They played really well in that game. They got tired or lost some concentration towards the end, and obviously Hoffenheim is a team with some great players, some real studs on there. And then the game against Liberec. Just up the intensity even from Hoffenheim, and the speed of the game and everything was just magnificent. And it could have been that Liberec was just that slow, but also we have some fast players on this team, on this Zvezda team, and I thought they really showed their abilities. And also shout out to Sanogo, man. I know like he is one of those people who loses concentration and will mess up. From time to time, but he's also a real rock back there, and I like the way that he distributes the ball. Sometimes he obviously holds on to it a little bit too long, which causes some headaches for the defense and for Borjan. But I'm liking what I'm seeing from him. If he could just learn to not keep the ball as much, I think he's going to be a great player for Zvezda. Go ahead.
You're so right about Sanogo. Oh man, he's you can see that this guy's pure class, but then like some of his decision making,
yeah, dude.
I think if he just had a bit better decision making, he'd be in a much stronger league, playing for a much stronger team.
Oh no, yeah, no doubt, man. And the thing is, Sanogo, great player, man. If Stankovic can get some of his, let's say, game game mental ability into Sanogo, I think Sanogo will be a great player for Zvezda. I think he is now already. But for tomorrow, fully prepared for a win, fully prepared even to bring our intensity again. We're going to be playing at home, so yeah, man, let's get that win and let's finally get to a group, get out of the group stages of a European competition. That would be awesome.
Relly, are you ready to see a victory tomorrow with your 6:30 a.m. Aussie coffee?
I can't wait. One thing I really need to agree with Alex was the form of the win-backs, because we all know when win-backs going forward, your greatest ambition there is to create a player extra. And Rodic was back to getting into really good positions for crosses. And Gage on the right-hand side scored, because if you remember how the ball went forward, he was a player extra on that right-hand side. So, really agree with Alex there. Listen, the big thing is I think it's an opportunity. When you're in a group, you need to manage the group just like anything else. And we've got the game against Genk and 2 away game against Slovan and against Genk again. I don't see why we can't aim for at least 7 points out of those 3 games.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean? And if we get 7 points, you're going to be really tough with 10 points not going through. Do you know what I mean? I understand we've all got our allegiances, and we want to see them do well. But again, we're going to get in a situation again where our concentration needs to be high because there is no crowd, and that may work for us. I'm not quite sure, but I'm really hanging out for tomorrow morning's game for another good performance. I just think that we just need to pay them respect, because they are a Belgian club that play in a league that is stronger than ours. And even though they're going through some upheaval, I think we just need to be respectful, mindful, but play the Zvezda way. Do you know what I mean? And I think we should be having a nice Friday or Thursday evening.
Alex, so what is your prediction for tomorrow?
I expect it to be a very, very tough game, because Zvezda's record, as people have mentioned, against the Belgian teams is pretty nasty. And I still think that Ghent has certain players like Yaremchuk and a couple others. I think they have the Danish right back, I forget his name, and I think it's Mile, who's fantastic, and especially considering Rodic isn't going to play, it's going to be a bit of an issue. So I think it's going to be a very tight game. They're going to come out, and they're not going there with the anticipation that they're going to lose. I think they're going with the anticipation that they have to win, because they've had a terrible season thus far. It's been one of the worst they've had in a while. But I also think for Zvezda, the key is that they don't put too much pressure on themselves, but also understand the opportunity is huge. I think this year, it's very interesting, because Serbian clubs are used to chaotic conditions. They're used to having their season end late and start early, and players missing out and all this stuff, playing in front of empty stands. Now other teams are having to deal with it, and some of them aren't handling it that well. So I think that the chaos can actually work for them in one time. And I think it's definitely a very important game, and this group is hugely important because the coefficient, I think the first year and the 5-year coefficient that's being counted is the year that Zvezda infamously lost to Kairat. The next year is going to be the one when they lost to Ludogorets, when they obviously didn't pick up a lot of points. If they get a lot of points here, they could get 30, 35 points and be the holders for all the Champions League or the Europa League or Conference League or whatever they play in the playoffs. And I think that I think that this is a huge opportunity for them. If they win this game, I'm pretty sure they're through. I'm convinced that they're going to beat Liberec away. And then I'm convinced they're not going to lose to Liberec away. And I think that Ghent, it's interesting because Ghent has changed many managers. I'm fearful that as Zvezda wins this one, they might change their manager and get somebody serious in, so that the away game is going to be difficult. But I think that a strong early approach is crucial. And I think one of the things is that you don't allow Yaremchuk to win his headers and to dislodge the ball down to the pacey wingers that they have, and make sure that the fullbacks that you have at this moment are adequately prepared for the overlaps that are going to come from Ghent, because they like to play that a lot. They have great physical players that are very fast and strong, if nothing else, and considering that Rodic is out, and Gajic has been sort of iffy with form, even though he's improved there. You have to be cautious, and you also have to be careful about how they come out, because other people have mentioned that they've changed 4 or 5 formations, so they're not really sure how they're going to come out to play. But I think that the good thing is that Zvezda has an identity, that it knows what it's doing, and I think that any major experimentation isn't going to be good. I've heard that Keller Kanga might be forced to play defensive midfield, which I wouldn't want to see at all. I think a midfield three of Nikolic, Ivanic, and Sanogo would be ideal. But obviously you have a player like Kanga who not only has great ability to win a match in his own, he's also a very emotional guy who's probably going to take it personally if he's dropped, and you don't really want to lose him completely. So it's interesting to see how Stankovic is going to juggle, and it's going to be interesting to see his impact because he's going to be on the touchline now. He's not going to be away, and we'll see how the game management goes because his temperament, Nebojša Milosevic's temperament, is obviously different. He's more fiery. Right. He's going to be more reactive. So I think that the calm approach that Milosevic had was actually very beneficiary for them because it was a very analytical, detailed approach, whereas Stankovic might be a more emotional approach, which can work, and it would work if you had the crowd, but because you don't have the crowd, it might be a bit of an issue. So they just have to go in there and be careful. I'm not expecting a win. I don't think we're going to lose, but I think a win's going to have to be very, very organized because I still think Ghent has certain individuals that are fantastic for this level of competition, and I think that just because they have injuries doesn't mean you should underestimate them. I think the historical aspect of Zvezda not having a good record against these kind of clubs is important, but if you come out with a strong approach and if you come out with the aforementioned intensity that you had in the other games, and if you do what you're doing well, and if you respect your tactical principles well, I think that they should win, and I think they can win. I think this is a game they can win, and I think that they absolutely should go in with the expectation to win, but also be fearful of the fact you do have a team that they're not the first pod for no reason. People forget that they're the pod one team. So there's a reason why they're there, and you have to respect it, but I'm expecting a very close, tough game, and hopefully win.
Everybody wants to play in the Champions League. Everybody wants to be on the grand stage. They want to play against the biggest clubs, but I think it's way more interesting to follow the Europa League because our clubs actually have a chance in most of the games. It's Champions League. It's great to get there. Of course, the money's amazing. The exposure is amazing, but Europa League is where we can really make up our points and get some results because it's more of our level at this time. Maybe a couple
the money,
great
the
Europa
money
League
gets mismanaged anyways. So the money gets mismanaged anyways.
Exactly.
So.
I mean, what things have Zvezda and Partizan done with their Champions League winnings, other than sell more players and at least Zvezda's upgraded, the youth school and the stadium a bit. But other than that, I mean, we've seen the poor management of the money, poor signings. They're still in so much debt somehow, despite spending all that money and getting all that money. So, we'll see. I'm excited that they actually have a chance to make it through, and tomorrow is a big step. And if they get a win, I agree with you guys. I think, 90% chance they're through the next round. They win tomorrow. Just to close off the show, I want to give a rare positive shout-out to FSS, Serbian Football Federation, for actually finally starting to, scout the diaspora players and call some of them up. We've seen in recent times Dan Tetek from Reading, as well as the most recently Nemanja and Motika from Bayern Munich, the young 16-year-old Stefan Mitrovic, who played for Canada. Now he switched over to Serbia, having a good season for Radnički Niš. So, wow, thank God. It only took them about 20 years to start seriously focusing on recruiting players that aren't born in Serbia or from Serbia to the national team, and hopefully we'll see hopefully it's not, a limited time thing, because we've seen it happen before and then, they all disappear. But this seems like they're actually serious. They keep calling players up. There's a bunch of them on the under 16s, under 17s, under 19s. Seems like a real turnaround for the federation, and it's something that they've needed to do for a very long time, because none of us want to see another Arnautovic playing for Austria, or Dragovic, or other guys that we could have had, should have had, and would have had our federation been more assertive and actually try to get those players and paid attention to them.
I think one of the disappointing things is that some of the guys that we have run in, for example, Prijovic, who we stole off the Swiss team, we didn't even use him, and Kuzmanovic and Subotic ended their careers early, so it's not only about recruiting them, it's about actually using them.
Prijovic took us to the World Cup. His assists against Wales and his goal against Georgia, there was a difference in that qualifying campaign. So, he did have limited usage, but he was still a huge part of the team. Veli,
I'll show you everything about Prijovic. I've got to say about Prijovic, he's almost as cool as Lorca. You know what I mean?
Damn.
Like, he's got fantastic tats, and you know what I mean? Like, he's almost as cool as Prijovic, because it was, us three have been having that chat, in between pods, and that was always a big thing for me, how we couldn't recruit more people of Serbian heritage that have obviously gone all around Europe, but, to the far reaches such as Canada, the States, and even Australia for that matter. But I think when there was the under-21 championships last year or the year before now, I do forget, so I beg your pardon in advance, the Austrian team, I think, was almost 90% dominated by players from the ex-Yugoslavia. So it was something horrific like that. Some huge, 90% might not be the correct figure, but it's certainly, this is not going to make any sense, but this is certainly a proactive move that is about 20 years too late.
Better late than never, as they say.
Okay, Miloš, can I do one more last shout-out, please, before we go? Is that okay?
Yeah, buddy. For sure.
Okay, so this Friday night, Fudbalski Klub Belgrade here in South Australia is in the playoffs to get promoted into the First Division. It was a club that was established in 1949 by the vision of 4 people that came out here. 2 were officers of the Royal Yugoslav Army and 2 were distinguished academics from Belgrade. So it's one of the longest-serving diaspora clubs in all of the world, outside of Serbia, obviously established in 1949. We've got a big game Friday night. Pleskovic will be going, Švapi will be going, Krofn will be going, and Petrina Jansa will be going. So I expect all of you 3 to be there.
Say no more, man.
I wish. Best of luck to our favorite club from Adelaide, Belgrade FC. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into the show this week. Next week is the big week as we play Scotland, and we'll have a special show before the game, of course, as, the days are getting less and less, and the nervousness is getting more and more. I don't even know. This is one of the biggest games we had in 20 years, so hopefully the players aren't as nervous as we're going to be the next week. But let's all hope that everybody stays healthy between now and next Thursday. Nobody gets COVID-19, and we can all be here next week getting a win and a qualification to the Euros for the first time in 20 years. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at Serbian Football Show. Follow us on Twitter as well at Serbian Footy. Thanks so much. See you next week.